Hey guys, and welcome to today's podcast. I am going to talk about motherhood, losing your shine, losing your sparkle, because honestly, a lot of us, it happens to a lot of us. And I know that sometimes in the shift and the change of as we grow up, um, it's easy to what happened? Where did I go in all of the soccer practices or the nursing and the diaper changes and the all of the things that we can get caught up in? It's super easy to have this moment where you think, what happened to me? Where did I go in all of this? And I think it's easy that sometimes we feel like we wake up and we're not really a person. We're just like the car service, and we're just like the meal prep, and we're all the things that we quote unquote should be. And so I'm going to talk about, where do you start? If you even hit that point, where do you start, and how do you start reclaiming who you are? And I think the first step is recognizing that it's okay that you're a different person. This is what's supposed to happen. You should be. We don't need to go back to our 20-year-old self. We don't need to go back to this person who I used to be. It's okay that you've evolved and that you've changed and that you're this new person. That's okay. And it's a good thing. What I do think we can recognize, though, is if you're recognizing that there are parts of this new life that you don't like, that's okay. I really believe in looking at the situation at what what is it that you like and what is it that you don't like. Just because there's certain things that you don't like about it doesn't mean we just have to like burn it all to the ground and start a completely new life. It's more looking at the aspects of what's working, what's not working. And sometimes in motherhood, we get so overwhelmed with so many things that we don't like to do. I think it's super easy that our day becomes an entire day of stuff that we have to do, not necessarily what we want to do. That becomes really easy, especially like the more kids that we have. And then it turns into, well, I have to do this and I have to do this, and we have to get meal prep, and we have to get to the practice, and we have to get to doing school, and we have to do this, and oh, this is happening on the weekends. And these are all good things, but we can just absolutely get drowned in so many things that we have to do, not necessarily what we want to do or what brings us joy. And as a whole, our families, we can, right, we can love our children, we can love our spouses as a whole, but there can be definitely times when you're going, I don't like any of this. There's nothing about my day. There's nothing about my week that is for me. It is all for other people. It is all to have other people progress. And I like it. And I think that's okay. I think that's okay. Now, the goal is to not get to that point where just like your entire day or your entire week is all about other people. I think the goal is to keep something that is for you, something that brings you joy, something that brings you happiness. And that's really hard at times. At times, it's really, really difficult, especially maybe this isn't for everybody, but like for me, I knew in the like really early baby stages, um, I really, really enjoy alone time. I like just that quietness. And in the baby stage and even kind of the toddler stage, that's not really possible all that much, because you literally have this tiny little precious bundle of joy that we love so much, but at the same time, they are so needy all the time. There really isn't a break. And so understanding your needs is a big part of it. Understanding what it is that you're searching for, and recognizing that it's okay that it's changed. It's okay that it's going to look different. So that's kind of the first step to start, is accepting, all right, your old self is no longer, it's not going to look like that anymore. That's okay. That's all right. It's not going to look like that anymore. Here's now, what is it that I am looking for? What is it that I am needing? this desire to go back to my old self. What is it about my old self? Do you really want to go back to like when you didn't have kids and there was zero responsibility? I think if we were really being honest with the majority of us, no, that's not what we're looking for. We don't want to go back to being single. We don't want to go back to like having no responsibility. It's just that we're missing little aspects of our lives. We're missing something. And what it boils down to is there's actually 6 needs, but I'm going to focus on the top 4. And that is variety, changing it up. Now, some people do this by traveling when they're younger. Some people do this by they like to change up their jobs. And if you're a mom, that's really hard to do sometimes, just switching things up just to be fun, just to be like, I'm going to be spontaneous. So as a mom and you're kind of stuck in these little stages of life where you can't really switch things up all too much, if that's what you're missing and you're missing this variety in your life, what can you do? What are some options that you could do that would add variety into your life, and that would fulfill that need? The other one is consistency. Sometimes we're so used to having chaos in our life, and we have so much chaos in our life that now we're just craving consistency. And again, that can be hard in certain times of life. When we were in the military, and there was a lot of times there was zero consistency because it was just we were waiting on orders. We moved like every year and a half to 2 years, and so there was no consistency. It was like, we don't know where we're going to live, we don't know where we're going to be. And so it was that level of chaos added a lot of stress because I was just craving some consistency, and I just wanted it to be very like the same over and over and over again. And when you don't have that, it can cause stress. The next one is love and connection. Now, sometimes, especially, we get so busy with life, it's super easy to just kind of disconnect from our partners. And not that we're trying to, it just kind of happens. It just, like when you don't get any sleep at certain times or you're running around, and there are moments when it's like, I don't see my spouse for, like a week because it's kind of like a pass by. We'll see each other, but it's like, hi, as he's getting home and I'm leaving, or I'm getting home and he's leaving. And so the idea sometimes that getting that connection has to be intentional. And it seems like work at times. When you were dating, it was like no work at all, right? Like it was like, oh my gosh, we're just so much fun. We're just having so much fun together. And that's great. But sometimes in order to get that connection, you have to be intentional about it. And it doesn't mean the relationship is wrong. It just means that you're in a stage of life where this is going to take a little bit more effort. It's not going to come as naturally and as easily. That's okay. The next one is significance. Now, for this one, this is probably one that I really is important to me. And there's just a lot of times when, as a mom, you get no significance because you spent all this time creating this wonderful meal, and then you have kids going, I don't like that. I don't want to eat it. Ugh, we're having that again, right? And so you can easily look at your life and go, does anybody care? Does anybody care that I'm doing all of this for all of you? Or you are running around to 15 different places in one day, but you forgot one set of shorts that you forgot to put in the lunchroom, and now you're the screw up for the day, or you're looked at. Maybe you're looking at yourself, and maybe other moms are looking at you like, oh, you're a train wreck. It's not true. But if significance is something that you're craving, being important and respected, if that's something you're craving, that you're going to have to find ways to really find that for you, rather than looking at finding it in sometimes your spouse really can't give that to you at times, or even just having that conversation like, this is what's going to get me significance. This is what's going to get me love and connection. I need variety in this. Now, the other two are important. They're growth and contribution. Those are important. But typically when you're really like in the deep trenches of motherhood, it's usually the top 4, because we are contributing a lot. And there's a lot of growth that happens in parenting, whether you want it to or not. So The first place to start when you're trying to figure this out is really start looking at those needs: variety, consistency, love and connection, and significance. Looking at those four areas is going to help you to start figuring out what is it that you're missing, because it's usually one of those four. The next thing, if you feel like you've lost your sparkle or your drive and you're just kind of in the trenches, one of the things that you can really start looking at is your needs, who you are as a person to a core. Now, I love Carol Tuttle's energy profiling. She has a couple of books. Understanding who you are as an individual, what your needs are, is going to help you create your standards. I like to call them your rules, because these are non-negotiable. These are things that you absolutely have to have. When you don't get these needs met, when you don't have these rules, and you don't understand that these are real things that you absolutely crave, it can feel like sometimes like you're going crazy. I'm the type of person who, like I said, has really needed alone time. And I felt like I was going crazy when I just had kids around me for a lot of the time. And I just felt like, oh, I'm a horrible mom, because I just really am I just need a minute. I just need a minute. And if I look into all the personalities and all the different tests that I could possibly take, a lot of it says that I really am an introspective person, and that just having that time to just calm my brain and to think is really important. But I felt so guilty doing it. I felt so bad as a mom, like I should want to be with my children all the time. And if I don't want to be with them all the time, 24/7, just staring at them while they sleep, then I'm a bad person. I'm not a bad person. I just need that break. I just need to clear my mind just for a short period of time. But understanding that now, I'm able to let myself off the hook, first of all, which is super helpful, because there are some people who just genuinely, that brings them to life to just be surrounded by their family all the time, or surrounded by people a lot. There are people like that, and that's wonderful. But the reality is, for me, it was very draining, especially when you're not getting a ton of sleep. And so understanding that it's okay. It's okay that that was a need. And so what I should have done is, that should have been a rule. Okay, I'm going to take this time and I'm going to guilt free. I'm going to just give myself a minute. I'm going to do whatever I want, whether it's reading or meditating, and it's going to be okay. The next thing that I would say that really easily takes our shine or our sparkles away, we try to live up to other people's standards or expectations. And a lot of times that's a story in our head. That's a story that we have, whether it was given to us at childhood or in our families. And some people, that really is an expectation. You are the person expected to do this. But if you start really looking at how many times are you trying to be the person to meet other people's expectations, to meet other people's the way that they think it should be, instead of living for what you really want. What does it look like for you? What does it look like in your life that you're actually trying to create? Some people truly believe that their expectation is the right way, and there's only that way to do it. All right, that's what they think. Doesn't mean you have to follow it. Doesn't mean you have to be required to keep that expectation going. Now, the way that I was able to get past this, I constantly say I'm a recovering people pleaser, because I'm really trying now at this point to, okay, that's your expectation. I'm so happy for you. I'm so happy that you have that boundary and that you have that rule. That doesn't mean I have to adopt it. It doesn't mean it's a part of my life. I'm happy for you. That doesn't mean anything to me. And that's okay. That's all right. Because other people's rules and other people's expectations don't really apply to me, because it's for them. So understanding that helps. I really love there's a concept of called the art of allowing. And that is where you allow other people to have these rules and to have expectations. That's okay. It's no problem at all. At the same time, I'm allowed to have my own rules and my own expectations. And if their rules and their expectations don't mean my rules and my expectations, that's all right. That's okay. And there's going to be a lot of people that they genuinely believe that their rules and their expectations should go to everybody. And they're allowed to be upset at that. They're allowed to be frustrated at that. It's fine. Now, that's sometimes easier said than done, of course. Of course, it's easier said than done, especially if you've been living with this people-pleasing gene or this people-pleasing habit for a really long time. Then a lot of times is what we're going to do is we're going to feel like it's our fault. We're going to get in trouble. We're going to let people down. So one of the ways that we get past that is we have a lot of stories in our head, right? This is one of them. The stories in our head, the beliefs that we have that it's now our responsibility to keep this other person's expectation going. That's our responsibility. Understanding the stories that we have, but understanding that the majority of them are not true. They're not accurate. They're not real. They're just stories that we created. The concept that you're in charge of somebody else's emotions or you're in charge of somebody else's response, that's a story that's not true. Now, I understand it can feel very true. It can feel like this is my responsibility. I have to do this. I have to be responsible for it. I've always been responsible for it. My family's going to be mad. They're going to disown me. They're going to whatever, right? I understand that that's a very real feeling and the anxiety and the stress that that causes. At the same time, if we can get to a level of understanding that the majority of these stories that we're telling ourselves are not true, we can start now to look at them in a very realistic way. Meaning, why is their expectation priority? Why do they get priority? Why is my expectation not priority? Who designated that their expectation precedes my expectation? Who dictates who's the most important, that their expectations and their wants and their needs supersede my wants and needs? Well, usually it was that person. Okay, so why does that person get to decide? Well, because they're usually a parent. Okay, at what point do parents now get to not dictate what their children do or do not do? Right? These are really interesting questions. And if there's a line, right? Some cultures may have a very hard, fast line where it's like, my parents' wants and needs come before me until I XYZ. But you see how like these really very quickly fall apart. All of these scenarios that we're really diving into, if you were to think about them in a very logical way, a lot of them fall apart fairly quickly because a lot of them are just built on feelings and emotions and the fact that somebody is expecting something from you and you're just required to deliver, no questions asked. Sometimes as we're looking at all of these stories that we're finding, sometimes we're thinking, I really do love my family and they're kind of crazy and maybe they're weird a little bit, but it's worth having them and having that situation. And if I just tweaked it a little bit, if I just said, I'm going to now do this, it might cause a little bit of ripple. It might cause a little bit of frustration, but I think we could get past it. That's the ultimate goal. Just start looking at things in your life that you do and you don't want. Some things are going to make a major ripple in your life and they're going to be a massive disruption. And it's going to be like, well, what do I do with this? That's okay. You're going to figure it out. But starting with these stories, starting with what do I want? What do I don't want? What's working? What's not working? Okay. It's not working that I'm putting other people's needs before me. That's not working. I'm not enjoying this. I'm not having a happy life. And sometimes just knowing what you don't want does not get you what you do want. So it might take a little bit of time. So you're going, okay, I put a lot of people's needs before my own. Now, that's okay with my kids. But is it okay with my kids? Do I want to do something for myself? If my cup is full, then I could pour way more into my children. Okay, so now what is going to fill my cup? What is it that I want? That's a question a lot of people struggle answering, and that's okay. It's just going to take time to figure out what you want and what you don't want. And the idea that I've lost myself in motherhood, I don't know what I'm doing, all that means is you've now reinvented yourself into a new person. You're no longer that 20-year-old person. That's okay. We're not meant to stay 20 forever. We're not meant to stay that same person forever. We're meant to learn new skills. We're meant to become a better versions of ourselves. And sometimes having that discomfort is just showing us what's not working. Well, thank you for hanging out with me. I trust this information was helpful. If you know of somebody that this podcast or this message would help, please share it with them because that just helps us. I thank you guys again for joining me. And until next time, bye.